Oliver Twist was originally a novel written by Charles Dickens in 1838. However, over the years it's been adapted into many things, including plays, musicals, and other forms of storytelling. The novel is about an orphan called Oliver Twist. He was born in a workhouse, and um, he was brought up, and then until he got moved into an undertaker's due to asking for more food, which is like condemned as naughty, vile, like etc. and stuff like that. Um, After him being bought, he then ran away to London because he didn't get on with the people he was living with. But on his travels through the city, he met the artful Dodger, who was the leader of a bunch of pickpocketing boys. Dodger then directs Oliver to Fagin, who is the gang's mentor, and Fagin then introduces him to thievery and crime. Um, the boys then make Oliver observe how they steal. However, the man they are stealing from, which is Mr. Brownlow, realizes that his items are gone from his pocket. Um, then the boys kind of like flee and then leave Oliver behind, which then leads Mr. Brownlow to accuse Oliver. However, Mr. Brownlow and his daughter Rose both have good natures and kind of nurse Oliver back to health after convincing the magistrate to release him, because the last minute witness kind of said that it wasn't Oliver. Fagin's boys tell Fagin, and then that makes Bill Sykes, who is kind of like Fagin's boss guy, worry, as Oliver knows a lot of information about them, and he's kind of scared that like he'll go to the authorities and tell everything. So kind of in order to get him back, Bill sends Nancy off to collect him, pretending to be his older sister. After this plan kind of fails, um, like, because Oliver kind of goes back or whatever, um, Nancy kind of realizes and believes Oliver will be safer at the Brownlows. So Nancy speaks to Rose and agrees to keep on meeting her and Oliver at certain places and at certain times. However, Dodger had seen this arrangement and stuff and like had overheard, and he tells Bill, and then Bill kind of loses his temper and accidentally kind of murders Nancy due to her betrayal. The murder then takes its toll and turns into a trial. Fagin is sentenced to being hung as an accessory to Nancy's murder. He slips and accidentally hangs himself after trying to tie up Oliver. Like, Oliver is then found to be Mr. Brownlow's dead daughter's son. So due to this, Mr. Brownlow takes Rose, and Rose takes Oliver in. The adapted play of Oliver Twist has near enough the same storyline, but it's a smaller version of the book basically, and it's like just basically verbal. There's not a lot of description and there's less details, but obviously the play is acting and it kind of brings the book to life, and the characters are really convincing and manages to make you feel like you're in that time era. Like the play really makes you get into it. Personally, I don't think you need a lot of kind of imagination to kind of feel like what the Victorian times were like and what that situation was like. Um, the kind of play brings out the dark imagery even more than what Charles Dickens intended it to. Like, the book has very fine details of every specific character, every specific movement, whereas the play is physical and you see what's going on, and yeah, just stuff like that. The play has kept the same characters and their same profiles, like the way the characters behave, their personalities, and like find distinctive things about them. Um, from my own view, I think that the play and book even is actually really sad, and it's kind of like it's showing you how vile that time era was to live in, because it happened day to day, like it was a day to day life. It happened every single day, basically. Like it was happening everywhere all the time, and it's just really sad to know that it's happening. Um, the play uses a lot of melodrama, and mostly on the stereotypical characters, and the stereotypical characters are actually like really big and like really precise, as in Sagan's boys. They're kind of your typical image to like thought of what pickpocketing orphans would look like and behave like. Um, the street people, they're really overreacting, and they're like, "Oh, you little brute," and stuff like that. Um, and then there's kind of that little section of middle class people that like to believe they're posh, like Mr. Bumble, Mrs. Bumble, Mr. and Mrs. Sowerberry. Um, however, there's an opposite character to kind of what Charles Dickens is getting across, that he's kind of made it this way. Like Mr. Brownlow and Rose, you'd kind of think posh people are really stuck up and they wouldn't even give an orphan the time of day. However, they're actually really nice, and they kind of give life back to him and kind of give him that part. And like before they even knew him, they'd be nice to him and they'd give him a chance to speak and stuff like that. Oliver himself is actually quite an opposite to how even the characters are making him out to be. Like, he's actually quite a quiet, shy little boy who is actually really extremely lonely. But all the other characters are kind of making him out to be a disgusting, vile, horrible little boy, kind of what you'd expect and crap brought up orphan would be like. But he's not, he's kind of the complete opposite. The adaptator person who kind of did the Oliver, so who adapted Oliver into the play, is Neil Bartlett, who's a 55-ish kind of British guy. He's a director, performer, translator, and writer. He is one of the founding members of Gloria, which is a production company which was kind of established, made in 1988. Oliver was his most recent production, but it wasn't just Oliver he's worked on many other things, including The Dispute, Camille, Does You Good, and Twelfth Night. They're actually pretty famous plays. Like, he's kind of been going for quite a while, probably since 1988, even beforehand, but that's when like he became quite well known due to him founding Gloria and stuff like that. The historical background to the play is Victorian times, and you can kind of tell from the play and the book what it was like. Like, the book was wrote and set in Victorian times. Like, the Victorian times, there was quite a lot of orphans because their parents were dying due to diseases, or their mums were dying due to childbirth and their fathers couldn't look after them. There's just them being born and brought up in a workhouse. The conditions were awful in workhouses. It wasn't hygienic, it wasn't clean. They got treated with no respect at all. all the people living on the streets, it was disgusting again. Like, the floors wouldn't be clean, there'd be rats from the sewages, just rats running around in the sewages. There'd be a lot of problems in the sewages then, because there'd be cholera, and obviously the sewages was linked to the main water supply system, so people would be drinking that and they'd be just dying and dropping like flies. And there wouldn't be a lot of people who were ill that could survive because there was a lot of untrained doctors. Like, even in the play and book, the doctor who delivered Oliver didn't seem fast at all. He was the complete opposite to what their actual role was meant to be, so that's caring and nice. And then when they actually look after the patients, where the doctor just couldn't care at all. So basically, in Victorian times, a wealthy person would enjoy a good and easy life, but a poor Victorian had a rough and hard life, and they'd often end up working in workhouse. And obviously there was no contraception, so they'd have a lot of kids, and they'd have to send their kids to work because they couldn't afford it, and they'd just end up dying of an early death. As we're kind of doing the play, there'd be specific things we'd have to do, like, in order for it to work. I think we'd have to work as an ensemble again. We'd have to work quite close together and, like, safely, because there's a lot of, like, holes which we have to climb and boxes we have to get into. We have to work professionally as well. There's a lot of us, so I think we should kind of, like, I don't know, kind of just, like, be quiet when we're, like, trying to perform, and we'd have to keep on top of things, like writing and performing wise. And as there's a lot of lines to learn, we'd have to do quite a few lessons of just learning lines, sitting there and going over and over, and we'd have to do that at home as well. And the characters, there's a lot of main characters, and I think that the main characters have a lot of characterization to do to kind of make it feel realistic and just bring it to life. And we'd have to do some, like, skill workshops, because we'd have to put on accents, so that would include Cockney and Posh, well, like received pronunciation. And I think that's pretty much all we have to do, like, as a group, but everyone separately and as individuals would have to work quite hard. But yeah, I think that's kind of it.